Hey guys, so just to give you kick things off, today we have Maria Pontes from BiD Network. You'll hear from her very soon. She has come here today because we've been running a series of webinars to help you shape up your thoughts around what are the social issues that the world is facing right now, giving you some demographics, some statistics, some numbers to wrap your head around it. And now we want to give you the chance to actually put your ideas into practice. And we have been working with BiD Network to make sure that you guys have an online platform to work with your business idea and turn it into a plan. And Maria here is today giving you some perspective on how it works with them and also some tips on how to develop the whole process with you. So let's welcome Maria to the webinar. I'm going to let her take over from there. Maria, I agree. I think you already have the command. So if you just unmute your microphone, you can start.
Hi everyone, thank you for coming and for your patience to listen to me for the next hour or so. I'm just going to introduce myself very briefly and then I'll also introduce BiD Network, so that's just to give you a little bit of context, where are we coming from. And then I'll discuss a little bit what tools do we offer entrepreneurs that want to do a little bit of business and financial planning. So as Frederica just said, putting your ideas on paper in a kind of a structured way. I'll also show you a little bit how the online platform works. And then I hope to discuss also briefly what do we consider a good business plan, how do we look at business plans, and what exactly is our criteria. So you can see there already, I think everyone had the opportunity to read about who I am. I work here at BiD Network for 5 years, and now I've been working directly with entrepreneurs, directly with financiers, but also with partners that support entrepreneurs like you in several countries around the world. So I hope to share a little bit of my experience and hopefully also encourage you to use our platform to develop your plans. So let me just go and start. If you now I cannot pass the slides. So about us, BiD Network is a Dutch foundation, and we hope to contribute to sustainable economic growth in emerging markets by supporting SMEs, so small and medium-sized companies. We focus a lot on growth companies, and our expertise is really on access to finance. So you'll hear a lot about how a business plan should look like from a financier perspective, and not so much from the entrepreneur perspective, meaning not so much as the internal document that you should have, which is more of a planning document of how you or your work plan to actually start your company. So this is where we come from. We use a very specific method that we call the bow tie. If you look at the image, you see that we work on both ends. So we work with entrepreneurs, but also a lot with financiers. And how we work with entrepreneurs and financiers is actually through the online platform, which caters a lot for the community building, but also to give tools to both so they can be ready and matched to themselves. But we also work a lot with local partners, and we have quite an extensive network around the world. And at the moment, we have 18 partners in different countries, and they actually do the on-ground work. We transfer our methodology to them, and then we jointly identify entrepreneurs, support them with training or coaching, and do the same to the financiers. So at the moment, just to give you an idea, we have about 300 financiers in our network. And these are, of course, individuals, so private investors, or what we usually call the business angel. We have investment funds, we have development banks, we have philanthropists. So we try to have a variety of financiers to cover also the variety of needs that the entrepreneurs have when they come to us. So we work with startup companies. We also work with established companies that are looking into diversifying or expanding their operations. Some of them have, of course, a need for feasibility studies or prototypes, and they will go more to the grant type of financing. Some others are almost at the venture capital state. So that's why we have such a spectrum of financiers. And more, we also work on with our local partners to build local networks, especially of individuals. So we do also a lot of engaging of high net worth individuals, a lot of workshop and training on how to finance these types of startups, which is, believe it or not, quite difficult for financiers as well, even when they are interested. So just to give you a picture, this is more or less the results we have achieved. At the moment, as I said, we work in 18 countries. Our matches are over that, so we're close to 130 businesses invested, and yeah, about 900 SMEs that we have actually helped start and grow, and that have created those many jobs. You can also find all this information online. And the services we give to entrepreneurs are these. So the finance, we actually match make actively. So we introduce your propositions to our network of financiers, taking into account, of course, their investment criteria, what type of geography they're interested in, etc. We also run a mentorship program. This is online. We have partnerships with corporate companies. We also work with a lot of individuals that have certain expertise and are willing to provide support to an entrepreneur. Then templates we offer for business planning, for financial planning, and we've seen this gives a lot of confidence to entrepreneurs. A lot of entrepreneurs are, for example, not so financially skilled, so we help them a lot with the financing part. I don't know if you recognize this. And of course, we are ultimately a network. So we give a lot of visibility to the best entrepreneurs. We put them out there because it's not only about finance, right? It's also about access to markets, it's about marketing, etc. And contacts. So we have quite a large network of entrepreneurs, organizations, businesses, so that we can match people. We also offer information, of course. We have several investment guides. This is more, of course, for investors that are interested in a certain country. But we also have guides to entrepreneurs and manuals and training, so that it's a little bit easier, the route of the entrepreneur, in terms of putting the ideas on paper, working them out in such a way that it makes financially sense and it's actually attractive for an investor, until the moment that you're actually ready to sit at the table with a financier and negotiate. We do a lot of assessment, so a lot of feedback back and forth to support you in improving the business plan. And we do a lot of role modeling. We have seen that, especially in some countries or in certain segments of society, role models work really well because people are lacking leadership skills or confidence enough. So if they see that a person that they relate to made it, then it usually helps bring that extra push or extra drive in the entrepreneurs. And of course, the network of local partners is super important for us because, well, they help us adapt our methodology to the local contexts, of course, because we are based in Amsterdam. So from here, it's quite different. And we also build local networks, and that's very complementary because we've seen it works really nicely. For example, if we have a coach or a mentor here in the Netherlands with international expertise and a local based coach that understands the local markets, the entrepreneur gets the support from both. So if, for example, the entrepreneur is looking into exporting, it's really, really useful. And the same works for financiers. For example, to match a locally based investor with an international investor makes a lot of sense. because of distance, of course, and for the investor that is not based in the country, it's quite difficult to monitor everything. The communication might be difficult. It's not so easy for investors to travel around because they're usually very busy people. So if they can trust someone is monitoring the investment and supporting the entrepreneur with the daily operations, it makes everything much easier and provides a lot of confidence. So I'm just going to show you a small video of what our partners do. And this is in the Philippines. We work with PBSP there. Just to show you a little bit of the activities they perform and the support
Every
they give.
day, we run into ideas, simply because ideas are everywhere. An idea creates that eureka moment. It stretches our imagination and challenges our business acumen. The good news is, success is possible. You can actually turn your raw idea into a profitable business venture with the help of BiD Challenge. In BiD Challenge Philippines, we empower budding SMEs with initiatives that connect, exchange, and invest.
BiD, or Business and Development Challenge, is an international business plan competition which started in the Netherlands in 2004. After 3 years, BiD Challenge was adapted locally and launched in partnership with the Philippine Business for Social Progress, or PBSP.
Our cassava processing units have come a long way after winning the Women in Business Challenge, and through the help of BiD Network Netherlands, we're able to connect to international investor from Switzerland who are going to give us the funds to acquire rural processing units.
The problem with handmade products is that it takes a long time to make them, and it requires a lot of people too. And then PBSP came along. They provided me with seminars that gave me ideas on how to make my production process more efficient.
Through BiD Challenge, exchange happens. Best business practices and expertise are shared with promising entrepreneurs. Individual business plans are scrutinized and evaluated. Businesses like Artwine were able to improve their market performance. BiD likewise serves as a catalyst for accelerating business growth.
2011, Mercy called us up of PBSP and she asked me, how would you want to have an investment program with Accenture? It's called Skills to Succeed 2015 program. And true enough, it opened Kapet Buhay program for us, for the Filipino coffee farmers, because it developed the education and training programs for Kapet Buhay.
BiD Challenge Philippines believes that small, medium, and micro enterprises should have a venue where potential investments may be acquired for the expansion and growth of their social enterprise. BiD Challenge Philippines honors your genius. Beyond innovation, the ultimate challenge to entrepreneurs is to establish an enterprise that is socially, economically, and environmentally responsible. What can be more rewarding than being able to convert your big idea into a social enterprise that shares the success with everyone in the value chain?
Joining BiD would definitely open doors of opportunities for aspiring social entrepreneurs. When they submit their business ideas to the BiD network, about 30 to 40 are actually shortlisted and are given coaches to refine their business plans. The chosen finalists will then get exposure to a network of Filipino and international financiers and investors.
The marketplace is a microcosm of ideas that are ever-changing and dynamic. It is where you can discover opportunities that are limited only by your imagination. Today, we honor the men and women who made a difference. They accepted the BiD Challenge and got a head start on their competition. So dare to take the challenge!
So basically, what you saw here is a little, it's BiD Network in a nutshell. So we kind of replicate this model in several countries, as I said, and then at an international level. So how do we support entrepreneurs in developing a good business plan? We do this through the online system, the bidnetwork.org, which I'll show you in a minute. And the bidnetwork.org allows us to do a lot of feedback sessions with entrepreneurs and also the coaching that I just mentioned before. So the feedback is really a way to kind of allow the entrepreneur to see things in new light. It allows the coach or the assessor to actually guide the entrepreneurs by asking the right questions. So there's a lot of questioning of assumptions, a lot of questioning the structure, and of course of back and forth. Which is really key because we have seen that entrepreneurs, of course, are super enthusiastic about their ideas, like they should be. But then sometimes because you're so into it, it's difficult to see the weak points of it, and some of these critical points are actually the deal breakers for investors. So that's why we put so much emphasis on the feedback part. And the coach that we have are professionals that help us do that. So they help the entrepreneur by questioning their assumptions, by guiding them, by connecting the entrepreneurs with their own networks, and especially support with usually the weakest parts of the business plan, that are the marketing, the distribution, and the financial parts. So how do you get online? You see here, very easy. I'll show you in a minute, but it's really just a click of a button, and you have to register like you do in Facebook or any other platform, and then you have to log in and just follow the instructions. And one of the biggest questions that I receive is bidnetwork.org safe, right? You don't want your business plan, your idea to be visible to everyone, and you want to protect your idea and possibly your IP, etc. So we give a lot of importance to this. So only very basic information about the business plan is actually visible online. So it's really about the name of the company and a small introduction of what you're doing, just so that investors and mentors can get interested. And everything else, you can actually edit the viewing settings. So you are the one to decide who is allowed to see what. You have to give permission to the coach or to the investor to actually see your business plan. So you actually have control of the information. And the only people that are actually able to see all the documentation are us, so the staff of the organization. Let me see if I can share my screen with you. Please let me know if you're seeing my screen. Can everyone see my screen? Okay, wonderful. So this is the platform, bidnetwork.org. You go online, and of course you can present your business. So you just click there, and it introduces why. So why should you actually do this? And you just follow the instructions. So you must be a for-profit business, and you must be looking for finance, because, as I said, that's our expertise. So you should be looking for finance between $10,000 and $5 million over the next 5 years for your startup or growth. So it's just the very basic criteria. And then, as you see, it's just a very basic template that you can just follow and fill in. Let me log in and show you a filled in one. So this is an entrepreneur, Ella. She participated in one of our business plan competitions for women entrepreneurs, and she has a business, as you see. She can link to her business right there. And this is the plan. The summary page is, of course, as I said, visible, which is very basic information. But then there's much more about the company, about the management, about the business itself, and about the financials. And there's also the option to upload your full business plan or your financial statements or any documentation that you think can support your idea. So also any presentation you might have or portfolio of products. So all these things you can just upload there. You can edit each part with this small pencil. And you can save the information below. And as you see, you can edit your viewing settings. So you can decide what is visible and when and for whom. Any questions about this until now? All right. Let me show you the financial part. So this is also something that you can fill in directly online. As you can see here that Ella actually only allows her coach and accredited investors, so investors that we have previously filtered and checked out and are part of the online platform. They are the only people that she allows to see her fully financial plan, obviously. And then the files. And you can see also you can upload images and all your documentation. And this is again only visible to her coach and accredited investors. So this has been her decision. And while you're working on your online plan, we also have this tool that supports the entrepreneur, and it tells you how complete the template is, and also your rating, which is based on several calculations and a bit of our experience throughout the last 7 to 8 years in terms of what business plans have been more successful in the network. And if you click on the view the reports, it actually helps you. So it lets you know exactly what is completed, what's missing, the rating, and what are the recommendations to actually improve your plan. So that's how bidnetwork.org works. It's quite simple. Did I stop my screen sharing? Can you see the presentation again? Yes, okay, great. So it's quite simple to use. It guides you through the whole process, and it's safe, and you can connect to whomever you wish. So you are the ones making the decision as well. You can check the background of the coaches that are in the platform. You can actually select the coaches based on the expertise that you're looking for. And you can also be assured that the investors that are registered and accredited in the platform have been checked by us. So they're not looking into stealing ideas or being sharks or less appropriate financiers. So what other services do we offer? Well, the coaching, as I said, and this is quite an illustrative picture. We've seen that if you have a sparring partner to discuss your ideas and the structure, it really helps. And our coaches are usually very experienced people, and you can actually build up a team of coaches in the platform. So an expert on the finance parts, an expert on the market parts, and just, for example, an expert on more soft skills like leadership or HR, etc. yeah, this we've seen that most of the entrepreneurs that are in the network that have been through the coaching process actually stand a much better chance and are the ones that proceed to actually receive financing. As I said, we work with individuals, but also with corporate companies. So we have partnerships with consultancy firms, with banks, for example, technology companies that actually recruit their professionals to become volunteers in this program, and they dedicate about 2 months to 3 months to an entrepreneur in working in the business and financial planning. And as you can see in the statements from the coaches themselves, it's actually a very interesting experience for them as well. So it's not that the entrepreneur feels that the coach is giving everything. The coaches are actually learning a lot as well. And the possibility to have coaches from different countries also is quite an interesting experience. And it enriches the network of everybody because the coaches also share a little bit of their networks and their contacts when they're useful for the entrepreneur. And we have had cases that actually the coach became an investor in the business. So that there's a lot of success in this program. Access to networks, as I said, this we do just online, of course, by connecting people, but we also organize events. As you saw in the video from the Philippines, they were mentioning a growing SMEs event. That's one of our annual things, and we used to do it only in the Netherlands, but now we do it more and more in the regions. And we bring people together basically, not just to discuss in kind of conference type of thing the trends and the main issues surrounding financing of SMEs, but we also actually organize a true marketplace, as you see there, where entrepreneurs can have their own space to actually introduce their ideas to financiers. And we've seen that these events work really well as, of course, the first introduction, right? So it's not that the financiers decide on the spot, but the fact that they can meet and discuss in quite an informal way with the entrepreneurs, it actually leads to much profound conversations and real financing of businesses in the end. And of course, leadership. As I said, we do a lot with role modeling. We want to present the entrepreneurs that have succeeded, and we do as much as possible so that they can tell their stories to other entrepreneurs. So we invite these entrepreneurs like Helen here in Kenya to be speakers at the Growing SMEs, but also to tell their stories, for example, in Twitter chats or interviews, etc. I still remember Helen, one of the things that she said, she participated in the Women in Business competition, and she said that women in Kenya ambition too low. So that's really a reflection of women entrepreneurship, at least in that country. So the fact that Helen is talking about it is showing her face and her success. It actually has increased a lot the number of participants in the competition from the country. And she is a true success because she has also been matched with an individual investor, so a business angel from the Netherlands, it's really working very well, and the business is growing quite substantially. So it's a true success story for us. So what is a good business plan? I guess that's what you all are waiting for. As I said, we look at the business plan from the financier perspective. So it's really about explaining your concept and your plans to the financiers, and to really try to concentrate on the things that are important for them. So basically, it concentrates on one business idea, of course. For some of you, this might be quite a logical thing, but there's a lot of markets where entrepreneurs are involved in many businesses, and they tend to include them all in the business plan. The thing is, for the financier, they want the full commitment because they're putting their own money there. So it's really important to show that in the plan. It includes strong entrepreneurial profile and references. This is super important. If you talk with the investors, both individuals and funds, they will tell you that the first thing they look at, especially if it's a startup company, it's the entrepreneur profile and the team. It's the only thing there for a startup company, but it's also the most important thing. So even before looking at the market or the product or even the track records, they really look at the team. Are they capable of doing this? Do they have the right profile? Do they have the right background? Are they surrounded by advisors that can help them? So all those things. Has a clear market for goods, services, and a marketing strategy. A lot of times you're an entrepreneur, so you just believe that your product or service will sell, and then a lot of people forget about doing the dirty work of really understanding the market and testing. So this is super important to include. It's achievable, realistic, and this goes into the financials, of course. We see a lot of startups very ambitious, of course, but also very unrealistic with projections of sales that are just not possible. And this, of course, is not a very positive point for the financier that really wants to make sure that the entrepreneur knows what they're getting into. And that's the milestones. So what is to be achieved in the first year is actually possible, because usually the financing is also linked to that. Includes clear milestones, so there's a clear plan and clear goals to achieve, and it's short and appealing. So it's 20 pages max. It has a layout, it has pictures, it shows what you're selling. And this is also, again, very important because, for example, if some incubators are still very traditional, and you come out of the incubator with a very interesting internal plan that has 100 pages with all the work plan and timeline worked out, but financiers are busy people and they will never read such a long document. So it's important also to build the plan for them. And it's more of a sales sheet, if you want, than a work plan. Projects. So how to spot one. This is important. Why? Because a lot of financiers are put off by projects. Just because usually there's not a clear financial sustainability or ends, because the entrepreneur is not so committed. So if the entrepreneur leaves, the project can just be picked up by someone else. So how do we spot one, and how do financiers spot these types of projects? Well, the priority is usually not on profitability, but on something else. And this might be, of course, a point of discussion if you're talking about social businesses. The role commitment of the entrepreneur is unclear. Usually there's not a clear who wrote the plan. And this goes also for businesses, because a lot of entrepreneurs also tend to go to consultants because they just don't have time or the skills to write a business plan. Watch out with this as well. Because if you do this, make sure that you own the document as well, because the financier will test it and they want to see that the entrepreneur really owns what's written there. It describes the need for product, but not how to do it. Startup financing is usually not from the entrepreneur. So if you start up with a grant, also make sure to include some financing of your own. It just shows a lot of commitment and it gives a lot of confidence to the financier. And yeah, the other points I think I already mentioned. So business plans for financiers, how to build one. So what do equity investors look for? And these equity investors are, of course, individuals, but also funds. So what do they want to see in the entrepreneur? First of all, it's good to understand that when you go into an equity deal with a financier, you're getting into a marriage. So it's about relationship. It's about communication. So all the advantages and disadvantages of a marriage you have in an equity deal as well. So what do investors look for? Ability to learn. So if the entrepreneur is not willing to receive feedback or to adapt, or to kind of discuss ideas, even if the plan is already thought through, this usually doesn't work very well for investors. They want to be involved in the strategy. Timely communication, of course, because investors are putting their money with a very long-term commitment. Usually you're talking about 3, 5, sometimes even 7 years, and only after that they actually get their return. So timely communication, monitoring, reporting is very important, of course. Then strong management team. Of course, a good idea is super important, but as I said, it's all about the team and the entrepreneur, and if there's a click with the financier. A shared vision of where to take the company, of course. Otherwise, you're gonna get into trouble. A strong market demand for product. So as I said, it's not enough the product or service. You really need to make a very strong statement and a very strong argument that you can actually sell this. And clarity about the context of the investment, right? So what is it for? Is it really needed? What type of financial product? Is equity the best option here? What are the risks for the financier in that particular country or market or a deal? So all these things are super important to have, and don't also expect to get into an equity deal very fast, right? You don't meet the love of your life and then marry the next day. You kind of date first. So that's also what you need to expect from an equity investor. You need to date and to get to know each other, understand that there is the shared vision, there is a strong click, there is an understanding, and only then the deal is made. So it's not quick financing. This is long-term financing. And the quickest deal we had was about 2 months, just to give you an example. But the longest one was 2 years. So it's going to depend a lot on the stage you are in terms of capacity of absorbing financing and starting the next day. So in the end, it's consistent information and clear proposition. So the business plan, the written text needs to correspond to the financial parts, and it needs to be clear, short, and appealing. The prerequisites, an experienced management team with a background in the same industry. This is, of course, not possible always. But if, for example, you're a startup or you're an entrepreneur just graduated, you don't have a lot of track record yet, make sure to surround yourself of a team that does have this expertise. That's usually enough, because it also shows that you're humble enough to listen to others. So that's very positive for investors. Then potential high growth in revenue, size, and market share. Why is this important? As I explained, equity investors come for long term, and they only collect the benefits after years of investment. So it's important that the growth is there, because that's when they earn their return. If it's a very stable company, well, it's not going to increase the value, so it's not so interesting for this type of deal. It doesn't mean that it's not a good company, it just needs another type of financing. Then, of course, proprietary technology, patents, other business processes, tools, everything you have that can be a barrier to competitors is super important. And of course, we know that a lot of times patents don't mean much, but it gives some security to the investor. And in any case, it's something that can be sold if the business goes bad. So you have to think it in a lot of different ways. And then, of course, an exit strategy. And this is key, because in most of the markets where we operate, which is of course outside Europe and the US, it's very, very difficult to get a small company that grows into an IPO, for example, that goes to the stock exchange. So exits are usually difficult. It's either the entrepreneur buying the investor out, it's another investor buying the investor out, or it's a trade sale, so a company in the same industry. And usually it's very difficult to achieve any of these. So it's good to discuss this with the investor, and it doesn't matter that you don't have a clear answer when you start negotiating. It's just good to be open for the negotiation and see what could work best. You can even set an amount for buying back the investor if, for example, you compensate with a percentage in sales. So there's a lot of financial constructions that can be done that can benefit a lot the investor, but also your business. And make sure that you understand that investors usually, especially if they're individual investors, they're interested in giving their expertise, their know-how, not just the money. So they like to be involved in the strategy and in the business. What they look in a business plan if it's a startup, well, startups have a lot of difficulties in accessing finance. I think that's not news for anyone. But what we've seen that really works is to show some extra comfort. So to really try to reduce the risk of the investor as much as possible. And how can you do that? Well, testing and registering your product. Name clients. So if you can get letters of intent of potential clients, that already produces some security to the investor, and at least you prove there's a market out there. You provide a more elaborate bio of yourself, of your team, of your advisors. You fill in a very detailed work plan with milestones, overview of expected sales. So as you should be as concrete as possible, naming people as much as possible, because that really gives a lot more security to the investor. And of course, the financial statements. And if you're a startup, you really want to do this monthly, at least for the first year, because the cash flow is really the first thing, sometimes the only thing the investor looks for. To go a little bit deeper into this subject, so what is there a standard interest? Well, if you are talking about equity investors, you don't really have any interest on it. So you only talk about interest when there's a debt product. Equity is really investor brings money into the company and shares the ownership of the company. So you actually give shares to the investor. So it's quite a different structure. You really need to understand if that's something you want, because you do lose ownership, and you have someone else there with a say in your business, which can be very good, of course, but you need to be open for that. And it's very patient money. So it's not that you start paying interest or the repayment right after. The money stays there in the company for a very long period of time. As I said, usually from 3 to even 7 years. So those are kind of the advantages and disadvantages, or some of them. And of course, if investors look for a business plan, their conditions to commit are basically related to the business model. So is it really feasible? Is it scalable? Because then it shows growth potential and becomes a lot more interesting. The entrepreneur management team, are they trustworthy? And this, of course, is about honesty and capability and confidence, but it's also about your experience or the experience of your team. Is it just people that have experience on sales, or is it just people that invented the product that never works? You really need to have a team around you that covers sales, finance, operations, which are really the key functional areas of a company. And as I said, if you're a startup, it starts small, but you need to show the openness to actually build this team around you. And the business is ready for investment, of course. The sooner this is the case, the sooner the deal gets done. So you should make sure there's no outstanding issues. For example, if you own the previous company and you're still involved with it and things like that. You're willing to take an outsider. As I said, it's really about sharing the ownership. And although, for example, most investors, or at least the investors we work with, are always looking for minority shareholding, it's still shareholding, so they still have a say in the strategy of the company. And of course, that's the product is piloted and tested. This is key for an equity investor. So what do banks want? Well, banks are very different institutions, of course, and they're not so much interested in the growth of the company. They're actually interested if you generate sufficient cash to actually pay the interest at the end of the month. So it's very different concepts. To be honest, usually startup companies that we work with are not really ready for equity investments. Usually the investor comes with a debt structure which is a little bit more patient or with better conditions than commercial banks offer. So as you see, there's a lot of flexibility in this. Let me get to that question in 1 second. So what do banks look for? For security. So they really want to see the history of your company. It's very difficult that the bank will lend to a startup company. They want to see the future, so the financial projections, the quality of the team, of course, it's also important, the own contribution of the entrepreneur, and this is the own contribution of the company, right? If you also have an investor in the company, this would also contribute, and it's very good to leverage capital from a bank. You offer guarantees, so usually you have to show collateral to the bank. And of course, the position of the company in the market. So, well, this means, can you make it or not? Can you generate enough cash to pay the interest and pay the loan back or not? So, as I said, there's a lot of financial constructions that we don't have really time to get into detail. But as long as you, as an entrepreneur, understand this, then you're in a much better position to go and negotiate with your financier, right? And to look for the right financier. So make sure that you understand very well where you are. Are you a startup company? Are you established and growing? Is the company a fast-growing company, or will you slowly grow and then stabilize? Because that will influence the type of finance you will need for the company. Basically, what you need to look at, if you're in idea or startup phase, it's very difficult to get external financing. So you should look for either grants, your own financing, or what we call family, friends, and fools. So those are the ones that come first. Then if you have a very high growth company, when you already started up and you're ready to do your first sales, then you can really go to equity investment and you can look for an investor. First, usually it starts with an individual, because individuals are much more flexible. And then as you grow, you can go to an investment fund and then to a VC. For more established companies that can show already track record and some security and don't have that much growth potential, then a bank loan, a long-term bank loan is appropriate. And always think that if you need financing for working capital, or for example for a machine, and you already have some track record, it's much faster to just go to the bank than to look for an equity investor. I think there was a question here about how do you actually start negotiations with investors. You don't need to participate in a business plan competition with us. You can just come online and submit your business plan. You do have to progress in your business plan. So the percentages that I showed in terms of completion and rating need to increase. And as soon as you reach the 70%, with the help of the coach, with our help, or by yourself, you are actually moved into the ready for finance plans. And then you're assessed by our matchmakers, and they move you, if you're ready for it, to our portfolio, and then the negotiations with investors start. So that's more or less the process. I hope I responded to the question. So just to show you some examples of entrepreneurs that actually have succeeded with us, I'll show you some videos and I'll tell you a bit about their story. So the first one is from Mexico, and you'll see the entrepreneur when he made this video. It was in 2010, and he came to our Growing SMEs event in the Netherlands, and he was really just starting. Now it's quite an established company, and they actually won one of the biggest prizes in Mexico for entrepreneurship. So let's just see the video. This is a pitch of Alex from Biogas Solutions.
Hello, I'm the president and founder of the Biogas Solutions Group, and we hold the patent for and are currently fabricating Sistema Biobolsa, which is a low-cost, high-durability biodigester system, which we have designed specifically to meet the needs of rural farmers in the developing world. A biodigester is basically taking organic waste, something that rural farmers have a lot of, and converting it into something that they really need, which is renewable energy. In the process, we're taking a waste management issue and turning it into a very safe and healthy organic fertilizer. I've spent the last 5 years installing many different types of biodigesters in the developing world, and I've found that the combination of low reliability, high cost, and high technical need is a barrier, especially to carbon development projects, microfinance, and for the free market. So I've designed Sistema Biobolsa specifically to meet the needs of these free markets and to change biodigesters from a low quality project to a high quality durable good. Our plan and what we're doing currently is working with NGOs, government programs, and private development organizations. And we're developing biodigester programs so that they have direct contact with the communities in which we're working. And through them, we're co-opting our marketing and distribution. Through our own investment and some quite hard work, we've developed a fabrication plant in Mexico where we're currently fabricating the systems, and we have systems functioning in 10 Mexican states and 5 other Latin American countries. We're looking for $150,000, or 120 rather, to further develop this infrastructure and to move our marketing into Asia and Africa. Thank you. I'd take any questions that you might have.
So this entrepreneur, so what you've seen here, it's at the event. So he was pitching for about 80 people there, and he actually got matched to an individual, to a financier. And if you listened carefully, he covered most of the things I said, right? So the tested product, the already negotiating with potential clients, the experience, the financing and what it was for, and the own contribution. So kind of most of the elements that I mentioned were there if you listen carefully. Let's go to the next one, which is Lorna Ruto from Kenya.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon, ladies
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. My name is Lorna Ruto, founder and director of Global Bioenergy Solution. I would like you to imagine living in a place where there is no system for waste collection, a place where waste is dumped everywhere, clogging the sewers, littering the streets, and even encroaching your homes. Imagine living in a place where there are no trees because they've all been cut. Every single day in Nairobi, Kenya, 2,400 metric tons of waste is normally generated, 20% of which is plastic. This is so bad that it litters everywhere, that UNEP has described it as the worst humanitarian crisis in the city. GBS can turn this into gold. We are involved in recycling this plastic waste to generate solid fencing poles that are highly demanded and very profitable. We have invested over $10,000 in this business, and we require $84,000 for this good cause. We provide environmental safe alternative to solid waste. We provide an alternative to timber since we prevent the cutting down of trees. We'll create employment, promote industrialization, and at the same time, making huge profits for our investors. If you think future, think GBS. Thank you very much.
So you saw how nervous she was, but the investment she got, it's quite an interesting case because what she actually needed was a machine to make the process of making the poles out of the waste more efficient and to actually increase the production capacity. So what happened was that the investor bought the machine, set up the company in Kenya, and then leased the machine to her so that she didn't have such an investment up front. She could just pay every month a rent of the machine, and the investor also had the security because he could sell the machine at any point and recover the investment. So just to show you the types of constructions that we can actually make with financiers. So just to show you the last one.
Hi, I'm Meenu from India. I'm a founder and promoter of Sakha Consulting Wings Private Limited. Sakha is addressing two key needs in India, specifically in New Delhi to begin with. One, there is an increasing number of middle-class women with disposable incomes on the road who are in need of public transport. Their big challenge is security. Two, there is a large group of resource-poor women who are not skilled and not educated, and who have the only job options they have are traditional employment opportunities with very low-paying incomes. So Sakha is training the resource-poor women as drivers, and it provides two employment solutions to them. One, it places them as private chauffeurs with NGOs, families, companies, etc. And two, we are in partnership with one of the largest radio taxi companies in India, planning to launch a radio taxi service which is meant for women and families and driven by women drivers. So Sakha is able to offer safe alternate transport to urban women. It's able to offer sustainable livelihoods to poor women, and also break gender stereotypes and open new livelihood options for women in general in Delhi. We are requiring an investment of 67,000 USD for this. We have already been able to raise a sum of 15,000 USD, and we are looking for a bold, visionary investor to support our initiative. Thank you.
Menu was, when she started her process with us, she actually said to us that she needed $1 million in finance. So we worked a lot with her, and in the end, as you saw, she by restructuring the plan and restructuring the company, she made the operations in such a way that she needed a lot less, which was also a lot more digestible for financiers, especially because she was just really starting the company. So she won a prize. So she got 15,000 euro in a grant. And with that, with the financing that she had secured already and an investor, she started the company, and now she has 30 drivers working for her and growing. So I hope these examples were clarifying for you. From my side, I think that's all I wanted to share with you. I don't know if there's any last question for me.